Hi y'all, Rob here from Way Out West. I had the pleasure of having a chat recently with Andrea Marr, who together with John McNamara are the driving force behind the McNamara project. We are very excited at Way Out West to be hosting the CD release of the new album, the Quasar Sessions. This will be a party to remember. A little bit of Stack's Memphis soul right here at Way Out West, launching on the 21st of July at our club from 2 p.m. It will be a full band show that's not to be missed. You can book now at www.wowrootsmusic.com or buy a ticket at the door. As always, please hit the like and subscribe button. I'm only 5 subscribers away from the magic ton. Hope you enjoy the interview, and we hope to see you all at the gig. And always, rock on, my friends. Can you tell us a little bit about your early life, sort of growing up in Sri Lanka? Was music a big part of your family?
Oh yeah, absolutely. My dad was a jazz musician, and he was just a bass. He was a bass player, a singer. He could play pretty much everything, but predominantly bass and vocals. He was just a beautiful singer. So we didn't have TV early years. We had nothing like that. We just had dad with a guitar singing away, and our little family used to record family Christmas albums into our little closet, with a tape recorder. So, 5-part harmonies from the time I was 3 years old.
Fantastic. And when did the family make the move over to Australia? Was it hard coming to a new country and settling in?
Yeah, we've been trying to come over since I was born because they were trying to apply for the time I was born. It took 14 years for us to be passed in. We just didn't have the money because you had to have 1 year's living expenses. So we had everything else sorted, like we could all speak English and all the rest of it. And we'd pass every year, we'd go for our little, high commission meeting all dressed up. And every year they'd say, you don't have a year's worth of living expenses, try again next year. And of course, dad was never going to be able to earn enough to have a year's living expenses. But then the war broke out when I was 13, and my culture is Burger, so we weren't involved in the war. It was between the Sinhalese and the Tamils. So we were caught in the middle of houses burning around us, people being murdered in front of us. It was horrible. So as a 13-year-old, I saw the worst of what people could do to each other, and they moved all the burgers out because they said, look, you guys are on the list. Yeah, we know you don't have any money, but off you go. And my auntie was really wonderful enough to take us in over here. And so we lived with her for about a month, and then dad got a job and we were all set.
Oh, fantastic. And so,
Yeah.
so when did you get into the blues and soul style of singing? And who were some of your early influences?
Well, dad used to play me big band stuff when I was very little. So I grew up listening to everything on the radio, and just dad loved jazz and big band. Apparently, I was very taken up with Ray Charles when I was very little. And he played me Sarah Vaughan and Ella Fitzgerald and everybody else growing up. Then I just fell in love with listening to Ray Charles and Elvis when I was 7. So I was madly in love with Elvis when I was 7. First record he ever bought me. And I started interpreting blues, and dad would go, that's not how the song goes, but I like what you're doing with it. So he was really encouraging of me being myself. And he said, never imitate. Just said, find your own sound. So I didn't know I was singing blues. I was just singing whatever I wanted to sing. And then I think it was I would have been about 15. I got up at a jazz special and sang with all of Sri Lanka's best jazz musicians. It was over here in Australia. And they said, oh, you're a natural blues singer. I said, what's that? Never heard of it. And it took a few years still, didn't really hear anything about it. And then I got up at a blues jam, which Lindsay, my husband, put my name up at a blues jam run by a man called Billy Kavanagh.
Oh, yes.
And, got up and sang Summertime because it's the only thing I vaguely even knew. And he said, you got to come back next week and sing 3 blues songs. I said, I don't know 3 blues songs. We ran off to his car, got a little cassette, because back in the day, people, there were cassettes. And, he brought a cassette along and he said, here you go, learn these 3, come back and sing it next week. So I did. I sang the 3 songs with them next week. And the following week, somebody came up to me and said, I heard you're the best thing here. Let's get you in the band. I went, what? I'm in a band? Okay, so I was in a covers band with Dad at the time, and then I joined a blues band. I was would have been, I guess I would have been about 27 by the time that happened.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's a great story. When I see you perform on stage, I see a performer that's enjoying every minute of that gig. What do you say to that?
For me, music is pure joy. I say to my students all the time, music is the greatest fun you can legally have. Singing to me is the most fun thing you can do. It's just I feel like I'm out of my skin. There's this saying from what's that movie, Chariots of Fire, when he says, "When I run, I feel God's pleasure. When I run, I feel His pleasure. When I sing, I feel His pleasure." So for me, my instrument is to just sing with all my heart, and I don't really care if people like it or not. Having a great time.
I was, I was going to ask a question later about the singing teaching, but you also do that, obviously. Do you get as much joy out of teaching as performing?
Weirdly, I say this all the time. My purpose in life is a teacher. It's really strange. Most performers actually do teaching because they can't make enough of a living out of music, and they go into teaching, and they're kind of bitter and twisted about that sometimes, and they don't really enjoy it. For me, I love connecting with people and showing them this thing that is music. And I feel like, honestly, I was saying this to someone on Sunday. My purpose in life is teaching. It's my purpose and my joy to actually share that, and I'm lucky enough that I get to have the best of both worlds.
That's great. That can segue into another question. You're involved with women in blues. Can you tell us all about that? What's the story with that?
Well, I didn't think I had any kind of knowledge to run that course. It turned out I didn't. I had a lot to learn. But John Collier from the Embass called me up and said, "I'm going to put you forward to run this course for women in blues." I said, "Okay, I'll give it a go." And then John Durr and I sat down. He's John Durr, president of Blues Society. We sat down and we crafted out a course. And I had a lot of work to put together for that because I wanted to teach them the things I was never taught. When I first started in blues, and you start off in blues jams, you have no idea what a 12 bar is, how to count one, what the chords are, what the progression is, how to tell someone to begin, like, oh, you start on the five. What does that mean exactly? And all these things, how to cue a band, what is a 12 bar, what's the history of the blues. And I wanted to be able to share that stuff that made me feel incredibly stupid early on, and many, many years of no one telling you anything, and you get up there and you're looked at like an absolute moron, and I felt like that for many years. And so I didn't want anyone else to feel what I had felt, so I brought a lot of that into it, because I was like, guys, I didn't know anything about the blues. I was just a singer. Suddenly I'm in the blues scene, and everyone's getting behind me, but I didn't know anything, and no one was telling me anything. So that's where that heart for doing that came. So we had 3 years of that, and now the Melbourne blues scene is inundated with female artists, and I'm just so proud of what we've been able to achieve with the Embass. And yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, it's a good thing because a lot of people think, oh, blues is a men's domain, but back in the 1920s, it was largely the ladies that were singing the blues, not so much the men.
Yeah, I went and watched the Ma Rainey movie, and she's credited with putting together the format of what the blues song was and performing it and all the rest of it. And it was really interesting watching that, but we're learning about W.C. Handy and how he actually formalized the 12 bar blues and all those things. It was just so interesting because it's a format that is timeless. That 12 bar format is timeless. Although every time I try to write a 12 bar blues, I've written a few, but mine end up being an 8 bar, which, John Cleary says is very New Orleans. So, yay, me.
Yes, yeah. Anything New Orleans has won me over, don't you
Yeah,
worry.
I love that. So,
That photo behind me is St. Charles Avenue, and
I
not very else.
see. I see. I love New Orleans. It's just that sound and that
Yeah,
feel, the food, the
food,
music, everything. I love that place.
cool. Now, when did you meet the incredibly talented John McNamara? Because when you're on stage, you both seamlessly take the spotlight. It's not one against the other. You're both there. It's fantastic.
Yeah, a funny story about that is that I met him on the blues train. I was doing a set in carriage D. He was playing in carriage B, I think. And I walked past and he was sound checking. I heard this glorious voice. I always have been a welcoming committee on the blues train. I like to go and say hello to people because I've been doing it forever. I walked in and I said, "Who are you?" Because that voice just blew my mind. And he goes, "Oh, you're Andrea Marr." I said, "Yeah, all day long, but who are you?" And then he said, "Oh, I'm John," and just sang his sound check to me. And we instantly became friends. And we stayed in touch from then on, just going, "Wow, I'm really into what you do. I'm really into what you do." And then he released his album in 2017, I believe. And his album did really well in the States. So I messaged him and said, "Man, you're kicking some goals. I'm so proud of you." And he said, "Oh, I'll put you onto this publicist of mine. He's going to love your music because he loves mine." So this publicist in LA messaged us back and said, "You guys are the male and female of each other. Why don't you become a duo?" And John and I both went, "Do you want to?" And I went, "Oh, okay, let's try." Because this guy heard what we didn't hear, that we were making the same music, singing in the same keys, which is very rare for a male and female voice. And there we were. We recorded a little song. I wrote a little thing in the backstage of Bendigo Blues Festival. We sang it together. And so he even filled in a line. That's how quickly we wrote together. And we videoed it, sent it off to LA. John went to do his gig. By the time he finished his gig, we'd heard back from LA going, "You guys are amazing. Get this happening."
Yeah, fantastic. Now, I reckon that'll make a great T-shirt. The male and female of each other, is it?
Yeah, yeah. I have never in my entire career, I've sung with everybody in the blues scene. I think I've heard, I've sung with so many singers over the years. I've never blended with anybody like I do with John. I'm
Yeah,
not a natural harmony singer, but when I sing with John, I find harmonies.
yeah,
And where we find our phrasing and how we even write songs in minutes. So we write songs via Skype,
yeah.
and we just absolutely get each other in a way that I've not experienced that with anyone else musically, and it's such a joy.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. Now, you've been over to Memphis a few times representing Australia, the MBAS, at the International Blues Challenge. Can you tell us some of the highlights of those trips?
What's not a highlight? It's amazing. So the first time I did it was 2006. I went over and we had the band at that time, and we actually got to play BB King's Blues Club, right? And that was incredible because my dream from the time I was 7 years old, I started reading about Elvis in Memphis, and I dreamed of going to sing in Memphis. So that's why I did the Blues Challenge, because being an Elvis nerd, I just wanted to sing in Memphis. So suddenly we get there and the gig was at BB King's. So how good can you get? So we had an afternoon show and a nighttime show. Sorry, two shows back to back the next day as well. So the first show that we did, I started to sing, and it was one of my songs, and it was called One Sided Love Affair, the slow blues thing. And I'd sing, "I love you, baby." And they'd all sing back at me.
Yeah,
I went, "Well, this is kind of cool." So that first show, there were probably about 70 people there or something because it was part of the competition. Now, the next day, the place was packed. It was, there's a top section, the balcony section, that was packed. The bottom section was packed. Thinking, what's going on here? So my husband goes out, starts to talk to people and says, "Oh, who are you here to see?" And they're going, "We heard about this little Aboriginal girl from Australia. We heard she could really blow." So it was incredible. They totally welcomed me. It was magic. I've still got friends that I made that first round there. And Memphis to me felt like home. I
yeah,
can't even explain it in any other way. We went to church over there. The church people welcomed me over there. So I had the church people, I had the club people. Scrap Iron, who was the door guy at BB King's. When he first heard me that first show, he dragged me up to the stage the next night, and he said to Preston Shannon, who was the then king of Beale Street, "Get this little girl up. She can blow." So here I go up on stage in the middle of Preston Shannon's set with the All Stars,
yeah.
BB King All Stars band, and I got to sing with them. So
Yes.
I can't even tell you. There's been so many Memphis to me, and the stories that I have of Memphis being signed by Johnny Phillips,
Yeah.
who's the nephew of Sam Phillips. That happened with John and I the last time we were there.
Yeah.
And he's like, "We dig y'all's music. We'd like to sign y'all." Oh,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
know BB King's in Memphis. That holds a
yeah,
lot of people when you
yeah.
take that balcony, yeah. And the food's pretty good there too.
Oh, magic. Except I asked for broccoli one night. I nearly killed them.
Oh,
They're
there's no
like,
green stuff over there.
he said, you want broccoli? I said, yeah. What would you like with it? Just broccoli, please.
Did they try and deep fry it for you?
No side of blue cheese or anything.
No. So we've got the Chuka Blues Festival coming up shortly, and you'll be there. I
Yeah.
really love festivals because you can go into a room and look around and think, I have something in common with everyone in that room. What, that's pretty cool, I reckon.
Yeah, I absolutely love the festival vibe because for us as musicians, I think the best thing is being able to watch other musicians. We don't often get to go and watch everybody else's show, but at a festival, and at Chuka in particular, because where we stay, all the musos stay in the one area. So you kind of go to someone else's cabin and like, hey, I'll come over for a cuppa.
Yeah.
You go over
Yeah.
and have a chat and a hang out. But watching everybody else's gigs, I think for me is the most magical part of festivals.
Yeah. And are you still involved with the after party show?
No, no, I haven't done
Oh,
it last year or this year. So I haven't been asked to do it this year. So
oh,
as far as I know, it's not me this year, but I was involved in it for about 6 years and I had a ball doing it because it
yeah.
was great fun.
Yeah, I've been reading Pauline Bailey's book, and I love the way you talked about it because you you're the non-drinker, so you're still comprehensive at the end of it, and you're telling Chris Wilson when he has to go on and Phil Manning when he has to go on. I thought,
It was hilarious. I remember so this was because Hugo Armstrong put me up to it the first time. He said, "All right, Andrea, now I know that everyone's afraid of you and you don't drink." I love that introduction to why I got to do that. So I remember that first year of doing it, my band was the backing band. And here I am walking up to Chris Wilson. I mean, anyone who's been next to Chris Wilson knows that he was a giant of a human. And like, I'm 5 foot nothing on a good hair day. You know, it's so here he was right up there. And I've got him. All right, Chris, you're up next. Yeah, that mic over there. 3 songs. I'll get you off when you're done. Thanks. Bye. And he yes, ma'am to me. He said, yes, ma'am. And I was like, okay, then. Hilarious.
I get the feeling that Australia's blues performers are family, and they look after each other all the time.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look, I think I often say we're blues musicians, we can't afford an ego. That's my standard line is that we're really not in that pop zone. We're not in that egotistical, zone where we can just treat people badly or anything like that because I think it's such a small unit.
Mm.
It's such a small, cohesive kind of thing around this country. So you've got to be very open to people. And I'm just a people person anyway. I'm such a puppy of a human that I, just make friends with people all the time. It's pretty easy for me. But I think you've got to really understand that this is a very family oriented thing and you've got to look after each other in the blues scene.
Yeah, I agree totally. So let's talk about the upcoming show at Way Out West. That's Sunday, the 21st of July, and you'll be launching a brand new CD. Tell us all about that and who will be in your band on the day.
Absolutely. Well, this CD came about by not wanting to be a CD in the first place. So John Durr said to me a while ago, he said, I'd love to see you guys sing That's How Strong My Love Is by Otis Redding. I'd love you to go and sing it live in the studio, just get the band in, have a play and do that. Now that all sounds really good, but that's all very expensive.
Yeah.
And also the guys live in Ballarat.
Mm.
So I'm in Springvale, the guys are in Ballarat. So it's not an easy feat. We didn't even get to rehearse. So January last year, I booked this place called Quasar Studios because I've been doing some session work at Quasar. And the minute I walked in, I texted John and I said, you've got to come and sing here. It's magic. So I've done some stuff with Ezra Lee and stuff like that in there and Paul Williamson and just done, some session vocals and guest vocals with people. So I fell in love with the place. Sam Valentino is so good to me. He's great. I said, let's do this. It's in the back of his house at Coburg. So it's not like it's a big fancy studio or anything.
Yeah.
He's just got the gear, and it feels like Memphis in there. So John and I organized that we get the band in, and we had 4 songs planned, and we went in there and recorded 4 songs, just with the idea of the experience of making music. There was no indication that this would be an album or anything. So we did the 4 songs absolutely live. Just had a ball doing it. John and I sang on the same microphone, spit everywhere. It was great.
Yeah.
And we walked away from that going, that was beautiful. What an experience. Because the previous 2 albums, we had not got to sing together. We sang pretty much the first 2 albums separately. And so we'd never had that experience of singing together, singing completely live and getting what we do at a gig um, i on recording.
Yeah.
We'd never had that experience. So we did that and we went, you know what, let's go in and finish the thing. So it took a while, but then we went in and did the next few songs. Now, there was no rehearsal with me and the band beforehand because, again, they're not with me. We don't get together to do it. We had a Skype rehearsal. Then we were in the studio and then we played the songs live and recorded it, and there it was. The plan was to make it vinyl, but the vinyl costs have been ridiculous.
Mm.
So we are going to release on the 21st as a digital and CDs. So it will be available as CDs and digital. And then after that, we'll be doing the vinyl. So we just want people to get on board, buy the album, so we can afford to make some vinyl, which we'd love
Okay.
to do.
And what's the name of the album?
It's called the Quasar Sessions because the
Oh,
studio is
yeah,
the
of
Quasar
course.
Studios.
Yeah.
So Sam's chuffed because it's like, yes,
Yeah.
it's the studio, and he'll be there on the day. He'll
Yeah.
be there supporting. So yeah,
So,
we-
so how many will be in the band?
it will be 7 piece.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So everyone who played on the album will be there. So
Fantastic.
the whole McNamara band and Andrew Houston on sax.
Yeah.
So it'll be what you heard on the record will be there presented live.
Fantastic. All right. So we're so looking forward to it. That's at Way Out West, 21st of July, 2 p.m. Book tickets online. Thank you for having a chat to me. I'm glad you're feeling a lot better. Um,
Yeah.
and we can't wait to see you on the 21st.
Oh, we love playing you guys. Your venue's the best, So we just love Way Out West. The support, the team, we just love you guys so much. So we're really thrilled to launch it at Way Out West.